Is it a taco truck? A church shuttle? Is this thing taking us to rehab? The Ford E-450 is a mobile identity crisis that writes love letters to the concept of summer, because this is the family road trip, this is the cookout on the campgrounds, this is the water park chariot that comes to life every road construction season. This is a matinee to go see the latest Jurassic Park movie that still finds an excuse to shove a kid into the story where they don't belong. But whatever, I got this giant novelty popcorn bucket I'm going to use as a charcuterie board, so it's kind of a net positive if I'm being honest. This smells like summer, and it looks like unclaimed adventure, because this is a world engineered to distract you from remembering to live your life. But the Ford E-450 says, it doesn't matter if we're going to church, to World War II weekend overflow parking, or to a halfway house in Pottsgrove Township, let's just go somewhere. And yet, actually driving the E-450 is like driving a ride at a state fair. Nominally fun, but it feels like it's constantly at risk of falling apart. All I want out of my life is to be best friends with disappointment. I don't even know what I mean by that. Ford E-450, the official car of grill masters who have no business manning the grill. I thought I would be happier when this day came, at the possibility of the race to the bottom coming to an end. I've spent 2 whole years on a relentless hunt for a car so awful that not even I would enjoy driving it, because I'm hilariously easy to please, and yet the Ford E-450, it breaks my heart. Because on the one hand, this was one of the most fun filming days I've ever had. Getting to photograph and learn about this car was a blast, and my volunteers Josh and Angela were on a family road trip with their 3 kids, and while we generally don't allow shoots with this many people present, I really couldn't say no. They are all positively wonderful people, and it was great to get to meet them and become a small part of their summer memories. But the actual drive... Look, from a mechanical standpoint, this isn't the worst car I've ever driven, but this is easily the worst car I've ever driven for Race to the Bottom. And I wish I was over-exaggerating when I compare it to a ride at a state fair. But hitting bumps in this van elicits a full-body response, like trying to parry a blow in Expedition 33. Just like, like your whole body tenses up, like you're getting ready to be hit. I can still feel the vibrations in my bones. And while this isn't the biggest car I've driven, it's probably the widest, Hey, you want to make a U-turn, you better put that into Waze to see how long it's going to take to get there. And the entire time it feels like the suspension is balancing on popsicle sticks. It's just this rickety feeling at times. It's like riding a horse made out of collapsible lawn chairs. I mean, I'm not going to say I was afraid or anything, but I did feel anxiety while I was driving this. And so it is that the Ford E-450 has become the greatest existential crisis I've faced as an automotive journalist, because it forces me to confront a question I didn't want to have to answer. Can vibes overcome a terrible drive?
Like, oh yeah.
Doors go open, doors go close.
Oh.
Yeah. The nice little squeak as it goes. Yeah, that's. And then when the doors get all the way out, then all the lights in here turn on. At night, it's quite the trip at night.
Because honestly, there was an initial high to driving this. This great big van, shuttle, bus thing, to where I straight up told Josh, there is no way this is touching my bottom 5. This is too much fun. It's like driving a giant oversized bumper car. I would drive this every single day until the wheels fell off, if I could. But that high only lasted for about 5 minutes. On the 6th minute, I experienced the Ford E-450 for what it actually offered. And what it offered was mechanical uncertainty. Because again, the suspension felt like tap dancing on a glass-bottom boat. I'm just worrying if the next crack in the road is going to be the thing that spells our doom. I might as well have been walking for how I could feel every pebble on US 422, which isn't a great road to begin with. The only way I can really get across just how big of a departure from regular driving this is, okay, so as a kid, I was used to playing racing video games on a console where you just press one button and you go. And so I was really bad at arcade driving games that had a shifter and multiple pedals and all of the things involved in actual driving. Because yeah, a kid's brain might have greater neuroplasticity, but what do you mean I have to work a pedal, a wheel, and a stick at the same time? I haven't even grasped that juggling isn't sorcery yet. And yeah, I could still advance in these games, I was just really bad at it, particularly if it had a sort of force feedback. It would feel like riding on the inside of a pomegranate or on the surface of a really spiny pickle. And I spent more time in the dirt than an archaeologist, all while the timer counted down before I could reach the next checkpoint, because the wheel kept wanting to jerk me in different directions, like it was on demo mode and I had no input at all. And it would be such a rough experience that it would leave little old me wondering if I had any business driving in the first place. And that is what the 2013 Ford E-450 is like. But heavier, more unwieldy, and not as persistent about taking the wheel out of your hands, although it did feel like it was listing to the left a little bit too much for my comfort, to where it almost felt like lane keep assist for people who don't want to be alive anymore. I didn't expect this to go fast, although I kind of hoped there would be a bit more urgency at full acceleration. But there really isn't, and it made merging onto the highway a dicey proposition because I wasn't entirely sure I could get enough speed going in with the strip of road I had to manage it with. But this introduces one of the positives of driving a van like this. People who were already on the road would switch lanes to avoid having to be anywhere near me. And Josh confirmed to me that he sees this a lot when he drives, since he's the primary driver of this van for the family road trips. People generally just try to stay out of your way, which means you tend to have a wider berth than you would in a standard passenger van. Maybe it's the size, maybe it's the fear that this looks like it could go tumbling over at any minute and you don't want to final destination yourself on the way home from a county fair with the most needlessly overpriced hot dogs this side of a Chicago ballpark. But, regardless of the reasons, people get out of your way, and that's a positive. Yet, as far as positives go, at least positives that aren't related to vibes, that's really about it. The 5-speed transmission is a box of squirrels that took Molly and just discovered the music of 7 lions. It's like it's not even listening to me half the time. This gearbox is in its own world. Every shift feels like a holding pattern while the transmission figures out what it wants to do, like Google AI trying to come up with an answer that's at least plausibly related to the question you asked. It's still gonna be wrong, but it's gonna sound right. And really, isn't that kind of the same thing? This downshifts so late when you're going downhill. I genuinely thought I'd roll into oncoming traffic and cause a pile up higher than the garbage in South Philly. And I thought this was going to happen. You know, I was coming back to the filming location with Josh, and I was already slowing down long before I was getting off of our exit, but it's slow and downshifting and the brakes are spongy. I was still able to stop safely, but a little later than I would have ideally wanted to. Maybe it's just a skill issue. Fair enough. But the kickdown lag alone is bad enough to make you want to be better about knowing where and when your exit is. So hey, maybe that's another positive. But I found myself struggling with virtually every aspect of this van's operation. This runs on a 6.8-liter V10, making 305 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque, with factory fuel economy hovering between, wait for it, 7 to 9 miles per gallon. Now, Josh and Angela get around 10 miles per gallon in their experience, but the catch is that this is the absolute best they will get in any condition. No matter if the bus is empty, if they're going downhill, if they're cruising on the highway, doesn't matter. Like a Doctor Who producer going through the list of names they can get back for an anniversary special, 10 is the best they can hope for. And best case scenario, you'll be too busy negotiating visibility to ever notice what kind of fuel economy you're getting. This is basically blind spot the car. These mirrors don't catch as much as you'd think they would, and so you really have to be more vigilant than you would already anticipate having to be, because not only do you have these wide dimensions, but you're also higher up than a lot of the more diminutive cars on the road, so you might not necessarily see a Fiat 500 or a Scion IQ when it's running alongside of you. And I can only imagine how much of a nightmare this is to park when you aren't doing it in an empty lot like I did. But if the car isn't mechanically impressive, I would argue it's a stellar feat of modification. You see, Angela and Josh found that converting a bus into an RV would actually be cheaper and easier than trying to clean and update whichever RV they could find in their price range for their family road trips.
So it had a wheelchair lift in it, and so we took that out obviously, and she sold it on the marketplace to Santa Claus. Mole Santa, Mole Santa was father-in-law or
It was Santa Claus's 101-year-old father-in-law. He moved in with them, and he wanted to be able to go out to their backyard, but they were afraid he would get hurt. So they bought a bus lift, and they had their engineer sons attach it to the back of their house.
There you go.
So Santa Claus's aging father-in-law could enjoy the outdoors.
Marvelous.
Oh, it was so cool.
You're full credit on the build.
Good, because I did the whole build. I sewed those cushion covers very poorly all by myself.
Hey, no, you did a great job.
Oh, you haven't seen the undersides. They're pretty bad.
What you get is basically a mobile, hard-sided tent, as Angela described to me. And I can see that in the sense that, it doesn't have a real electricity system beyond what the car itself provides, although she did run an inverter in order to allow more electronics to be plugged in. But generally speaking, it has no plumbing. They have this wonderful toilet thing here that I don't know how to describe it. And hopefully, if I'm smart, I'll include the video of Josh explaining it.
It's like standard cassette toilet, so you fill it with water, and you hold the lid down, you off gas, close it, open, do your business, flush with water, and then off it goes, down into the abyss. So it's cassette toilet, so everything goes down in there, and then when you're at a dump spot, you just fill it with water, slosh it around, then down the drain it goes at the camp dump site. Thankfully, we haven't had to use it on this trip. It's like a porta potty.
Very nice.
But it gets the job done.
The entire package here is versatile enough to make long-distance travel more agreeable than it would have been cramped in a Honda Odyssey. And Angela is hoping to have it listed on the Hip Camp service within the next month, so you'll actually be able to rent this. And tell me how wrong I am about my assessment of its driving function. But it is cozy, it's stylish, it feels warm and familiar, and I could imagine having an amazing summer with this, having just great adventures and great fun with the family. And really, that's why this conversion exists at all. And to that end, it's a smashing success. And so why shouldn't you want to rent this? It's built on a van chassis because, the fourth generation of the Ford E-Series continued with that cutaway van chassis layout for ease of modification. But this was also used as a shuttle bus before Josh and Angela bought it. The state of Minnesota, however, where they're from, recognizes it as a van. Yet Josh and Angela use it as an RV or a camper. But this Ford E-450 confused Canadian border agents during their trip to Niagara Falls to such an extent that they had no idea what to make of this and just assumed it was a bunch of arms-bearing Americans sneaking into the Great White North with a truck full of black market cheeseburgers or something. No, seriously, they were getting grilled by border agents who assumed they were bringing weapons over the border, and fair play, America. But eventually the agents realized No, this is literally just a family with an inexplicable, oversized, free-range road kaiju. And that's more or less what this is, isn't it? It's the manifest destiny of American summer, sprung forth from the hairless, unwashed balls of consumerism to preach the good gospel of emotional marketing. You deserve to have your needs met, whatever those needs might be, and you can convert this into whatever you need it to be to meet those needs. Who cares if it looks like a rolling meth lab posted up for the night in the parking lot of a Walmart next to the fireworks tent? This is as brilliantly summer-coded as a guy blowing off his fingers because of what he bought from that fireworks tent. And I'm as certain of that fact as I am certain that the absolute dumbest person you've ever met is going to come over to your E-450 to ask if you've got any sunscreen because they somehow forgot to pack any. Sir, it is 105 degrees with no tree or cloud coverage. How is sunblock not the first thing you put in your bag? How did you find room for Astroglide and rolling papers, but not this? The 2013 Ford E-450 provides those loose, carefree summer vibes, but it's also tedious the way summer can be tedious. Because too much of a good thing can be exhausting, and good things that are exhausting in excess lead to relief when they end. And I was relieved when I didn't have to drive this anymore. The anxious tension released and I felt better. But now, I kinda miss the E-450. Not for how it drives, but for the feelings it evoked. Because it embodies summer and all of its hopes and its possibilities. Summer isn't a season. Summer is the possibility of escape. It's that time of year when we measure success on whether or not we can successfully get away from our own lives. Summer is the collectively conjured image of what happiness is supposed to look like. It's sunshine and fireworks, high tide and white sands. When you think of your retirement, just any part of your retirement, even if it's just an activity that you're doing, what season is it? Summer is that rocking chair peace, retiring alongside your wife and sitting on a porch drinking lemonade, ignoring calls from telemarketers about your car's extended warranty, despite losing your license 20 years earlier after running over your son's loan shark. It was worth it then, and it's worth it now. Because now he can give his kids the kind of carefree summers you gave him. Do you ever think God gets tired of us sometime? For a lot of us, summer is the only movie we'll ever get to be in, because everything that happens takes on a cinematic quality. Summer romance, the enveloping shock of that first dip in the pool, the big movies, the small moments, the medium fries with a peel-off Monopoly sticker, a journey with the family to destinations known, by paths unknown. Summer is treated as this generational reward for a school year that went too fast, but also never seemed like it would end. It's a liminal period between the endings of high school and the new beginnings of college that almost doesn't feel canon to the rest of the year, because summer inspires a sense of community that we don't indulge the rest of the calendar year. We could, but we just don't, because we don't feel it any other time of the year the way we do in the summer. Not during Thanksgiving when family tensions rise, not at Christmas when we're yoked with the responsibility of expressing our love through our wallets. Maybe New Year's, maybe, but not like summer, when America actually believes in America, kind of. Not like summer, when our yearly sacrament comes in the form of overcooked hot dogs and hamburgers. Summer is a narrative, the newness and optimism of June, the drama and highs of July, the bittersweet endings of August, days with no school and nights with no bedtime, riding bikes in the streets with friends as the sun goes down and the streetlights come on, bars with outdoor patios, beaches and cookouts, and pools and amusement parks. Classic cars come out of the garage, and textbooks go back to wherever textbooks live. That's summer, but only a kind of summer. It's one shade of the narrative, and the Ford E-450 captures part of it, sure, but it also captures the less cinematic summer, the real summer, the one that smells like cocoa butter and burning wood, that feels like vinyl seats that cling to you like a stranger's dog, the sunburn, the mosquito bites, the summer where the days are too hot to do anything and the nights where nobody is ever free, the thrill of possibility cut with the likelihood of disappointment, the reality of boredom, or Mother Nature's lack of cooperation. Summer is great, but summer is also kind of lame. And I feel the same way about this E-450. This is the absolute worst car I've ever driven for this show, but it represents summer better than anything I've ever sat in. Rough and rugged and exasperating and hopeful and thrilling and anxiety-inducing and miserable and full of wonder. A nostalgia conductor that drills memories into the bedrock of the human soil. For our Caravan review, I wrote that nostalgia is the future's reward for a well-lived present. But I think it's more apt for this than it ever was for the Caravan, because this is a delivery mechanism for presence. You can't be anything but present and in the moment with this, and I appreciate it for that, and for the summer vibes it offers. I just wish it weren't such a dog. Okay, so I didn't script this part. Normally I'll write down and organize all of my thoughts and make a determination on where a car goes in the bottom 5, but I don't feel like I can really do that with this because it's something I have to come to a decision on sort of here in the moment as I'm doing it. Because I'm having a hard time ascertaining where on the bottom 5 this will go. Because if we're talking purely mechanically, then the Nissan Sentra's 2-year reign is over, basically. But the feeling that this gave me somewhat overrides its mechanical function. I didn't feel the despair that I felt with the Sentra. And I know, I'm taking this too seriously. And the point is that this shouldn't be taken seriously at all. And so I'm having a hard time coming to a determination over what's fair, because the E-450 was a worse driving experience, but the Sentra is a worse car. You know what I mean? The E-450, it's in the condition that it is after years of use, whereas the Sentra doesn't really have that excuse when I drove it. You know, it wasn't run hard. It was just bad off rip. But this is worse. It really is. But I also feel like the Nissan Sentra is there because it's a soft target. Nobody's going to disagree with me putting the Nissan Sentra in the bottom spot. But if I look at it objectively, which I always hope to do, but subjectivity is always going to be a part of this, I would rather drive that than this. Oh God, I can't believe I said that. Yeah, because the Sentra was bad, but it didn't fill me with dread and anxiety the way that this did. And so even though I did get a lot of joy and good feelings from this Ford E-450, I feel like this is kind of a problem that we've dealt with for the past 13 years that we've been doing this, where I feel like sometimes nostalgia overrides our better judgment, or my better judgment, I should say, because I'm not going to speak for Brian, but I feel like I let nostalgia talk me out of my actual opinion. It's not to say that those feelings of sentimentality aren't valid, but it is to say that you need to look underneath all of those feelings to get at some semblance of truth. God, I'm making this such a bigger deal than it needs to be. So here we go. And look, I'm not happy about this. I'm really not. I thought I would be, but I'm not, because the new leader in the race to the bottom is the 2013 Ford E-450. Oh, I'm disgusted with myself. I'm disgusted. I can't even look at myself right now. This is just, like, I mean, I already don't look at myself. I mean, I gotta ambush the mirror to get a look at my reflection, but I can't. I feel like I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and regret this. I really do. But I'm looking at it from the standpoint of which one of these cars would I rather drive. And I honestly would rather drive the Sentra again. I was just really stressed out driving this E-450. And maybe that's a skill issue for me, but if I'm taking an L on this, I'm going to wear the L like a scarlet letter. And we're just going to, I'm going to live with this for however long it remains on the list. And I'm going to stop apologizing for having an opinion, because we're all allowed to have them, just as you can go into the comments and disagree with me to your heart's content, and I will thank you for it. So here we are, the new list. So on the advice of your comments last month, I've inverted the lists so that now number 5 is the car that I hated the least out of the bottom 5. Because we're adding a new car to the list, we say goodbye to the 2010 Toyota Prius, which graduates from the bottom 5. Meaning that number 5 is now the 2015 Cadillac SRX, number 4 is the 2017 Chevy Cruze LT hatchback, number 3 is the 2019 Dodge Journey, number 2 is the Nissan Sentra SV. I can't believe it actually got out of the bottom spot. That's just, I never thought that would happen, but here we are. And number 1, the new leader in the race to the bottom, the 2013 Ford E-450. Ugh, like it's making me nauseous just saying it. Oh, I already regret it, but it's standing. I'm standing on business on this one. So thank you from the depths of my soul. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Angela. Thank you for helping me to have a job and for volunteering your car and bringing your beautiful family to come visit in southeastern Pennsylvania. And if you have a car that you think can win the race to the bottom, because no, this is not over yet. This is a new front runner in the race to the bottom, but the race to the bottom is not over because I'm looking for a car with no redeeming values whatsoever. Reach out to me at regularcarstheroman@gmail.com. That's regularcarstheroman@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching, and have an outstanding rest of your week. At our Fourth Wall merch store linked below, every order big or small gets a thank you video. But if you want key tags and license plate frames, check the link in our description for our Zazzle store page. Support us in our car absurdity. But if you want to be a bro and help us keep this show alive, go to the Patreon linked below and just click subscribe. For $1 you get early access and exclusive content. Rest easy that you know you're doing right. But in the absence of it all, just like, comment, share, subscribe, and let us know your thoughts. We hope you enjoy the ride.